get you, CIA team. Inshallah, will you get you down? This could come to you through unexpected ways.
This was Humam Khalil al-Balawi a few hours before he detonated a 30-pound bomb strapped to his body, killing 10 people, including 7 CIA agents. But how did an Al-Qaeda supporter gain entry into a fortified US base without getting searched? And why was he meeting with CIA agents in the first place? Well, today I'll be telling you his story. Born on the 25th of December 1977, al-Balawi, with his parents and 9 siblings, grew up in Kuwait. But on the 2nd of August 1990, an unprecedented invasion by Iraq would force the low-income family to seek refuge in Jordan. Life in Jordan brought great opportunities for al-Balawi. He graduated from high school with honors before moving to Turkey, where he studied medicine at the University of Istanbul. Following the completion of his program in Turkey, he returned to Jordan to further hone his skills as a medical practitioner. He underwent additional medical training at the University of Jordan and also at a local Islamic health center run by Jordan's Muslim Brotherhood organization. It was here that he met Dafina Bayrak, an Arabic language translator and Turkish journalist who eventually became his wife. On the outside, it appeared that al-Balawi was doing fine. His marriage with Bayrak had produced 2 daughters, and he was gainfully employed as a pediatrician at a local refugee clinic. Not to mention that he had big dreams of one day becoming a specialist in surgery in Turkey. But it would appear that all of these were just a facade for the unsettling anomalies that were going on in his life. For starters, al-Balawi had a history of showing support for violent Islamist causes, including endorsing the 2005 bombing of 3 hotels in Amman by the notorious Al-Qaeda man Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, which led to the death of 60 people. Yes, al-Balawi was a passionate believer in the actions of Al-Qaeda. However, it wasn't until the National Intelligence Organization in Turkey uncovered his relation with the Great Eastern Islamic Raiders Front that the dust of suspicion began to gather around him. Not long after, the Site Intelligence Group, an American company which tracks the online activity of supremacist and jihadist organizations, identified al-Balawi as a prominent contributor to different jihadi websites, where he wrote fairly radical content under the pseudonym Dujana al-Kharasani. As if that wasn't suspicious enough, al-Balawi also owned an Islamist blog which he used to promote Al-Qaeda, and he had quite a large following, mostly of young people too. In 2008, US intelligence officials found one of al-Balawi's posts with angry words directed at the West. As expected, they shared this intel with their colleagues in Jordan, who moved swiftly to arrest al-Balawi in January 2009. During his detention, the Jordanian doctor was kept in a secret prison, where he was interrogated for 3 days. Surprisingly, the interrogators didn't have to exert much pressure before al-Balawi started spewing useful information. In no time, he was mentioning the names of people he had met on the internet and describing how the internet works within the jihadi community. Seeing this level of cooperation from a potential terrorist was quite refreshing for officers of the Jordanian security service. It was here he was believed to have been transformed into a double agent loyal to the US and to Jordan. They thought they had hit the jackpot, and you really cannot blame them for their optimism. A potential collaboration with al-Balawi could yield great results in the fight against terrorism, not only in Jordan, but on the global front. So they released him, but continued to visit his home from time to time, hoping to gather more intelligence. And on one of those visits, al-Balawi offered to travel to Pakistan to sniff around and hopefully gather more intelligence. For the Jordanian intelligence organization, this was a deal they couldn't refuse. So they briefed the officials at CIA headquarters in Virginia about this surprising development, and al-Balawi's trip to Pakistan was approved. You could argue that the approval was given hastily, but again, you can understand why that was the case. I mean, al-Balawi wasn't a top-tier intelligence asset, so even if he was killed, the CIA didn't have much to lose. Long story short, the CIA and the Jordanian security service decided to take a gamble on al-Balawi. They got him a visa, paid his airfare, and even gave him some money for upkeep, but they didn't expect much from him. And for over the next few months, al-Balawi didn't reach out to his Jordanian handlers or the CIA. Then, all of a sudden, he started sending in important information and solid evidence about Al-Qaeda, which suggests that he was getting close to the inner circle of the extremist group. The eye-popping moment, however, was when he sent in footage of himself sitting next to senior Al-Qaeda officials in a tent. This, perhaps, was the evidence that convinced the Jordanian security operatives and CIA officials that they could be onto something huge. In other words, they had started to see al-Balawi as an important intelligence asset and maintained communication with him over the next couple of months. The relationship between the CIA and al-Balawi had begun to grow such that the agency sometimes even received coordinates of Taliban and Al-Qaeda positions in Pakistan from the Jordanian doctor to prepare potential attacks. Al-Balawi would later admit that he sometimes sent the CIA false information, but he did provide detailed reports of the aftermath of the drone strikes. Senior CIA officials were impressed by his level of cooperation and the first-hand reports that he provided. At this point, al-Balawi had started to earn the trust of the CIA, and a real relationship was brewing. In November 2009, al-Balawi presented the CIA with another irresistible deal. He claimed that he had met directly with Ayman al-Zawahiri, the highest-ranked al-Qaeda leader at the time, only second behind Osama bin Laden. As if that wasn't tempting enough, claimed to be Zawahiri's personal doctor and told CIA officials that the Egyptian-born militant needed medical care. Furthermore, al-Bawari gave the CIA a detailed account of Zawahiri's medical history, and, remarkably, it tallied with the data the agency had collected over the years. In light of this new information and past video evidence showing al-Bawari inside the jihadi camp, the CIA invited him to the US Forward Operating Base Chapman in Khost, Afghanistan, for a face-to-face meeting with some of the best CIA operatives. The objectives of this meeting were quite straightforward. First, they needed to assess him in person to determine if what he was saying was indeed true. And if that was the case, the CIA had plans to equip al-Balawi with special gadgets for his next assignment. However, there was a significant problem. Within the CIA, they believed strongly that they had found the perfect informant for the next phase of their mission. But what they didn't all realize is that they were being misled by Bawari. In fact, not only were they being misled, Zawahiri was actually using al-Bawali as a triple agent. So it's safe to say the whole idea of al-Bawari meeting CIA agents was a bait planned by Ayman al-Zawahiri himself, and the writing was, in fact, plastered all over the wall. While there was constant communication between the CIA and al-Balawi, no American official had ever met him before now. Also, the Jordanian intelligence agency was quite skeptical about al-Balawi. They suspected that he might not be what he claims to be, and his willingness to meet with CIA agents could be an ambush. Having worked with the Jordanian spy agency for decades, the CIA knew that these reservations were valid. In fact, some Americans even expressed concerns, and there was a bit of an argument between the agents at the base in Khost and CIA officials in Washington. Most of those discussions were centered around how the risks involved in meeting with al-Balawi and the proper security measures to adopt before and during the meeting. This back and forth went on for a while, and in the end, it was decided that the opportunity to meet an informant who had direct access to senior al-Qaeda leaders was too good to ignore. So, the CIA continued with its plan. On the 30th of December 2009, a car was sent to bring al-Balawi to the base. Ordinarily, in situations like this, proper checks are conducted before an informant is allowed into the fortified base. However, in this case, al-Balawi was allowed to pass through 3 layers of security without any checks, as a sign of respect because he was seen as a valuable asset, and also because the CIA was worried about Taliban spies spotting him. Within a few minutes, the consequences of this gross carelessness would come back to hunt them and change the way that CIA agents engage with dangerous informants forever. When the vehicle carrying al-Balawi came to a halt, he was within a few feet of the 14 people, including the best CIA operatives who had been selected to meet with him. And slowly, the chaos that al-Balawi had planned all along began to unfold. Instead of coming out of the car through the passenger side, al-Balawi let himself through the driver's side. At this point, the CIA agents were beginning to suspect that something was wrong, and their fears were confirmed. A short moment later, when al-Balawi began to walk around the side of the car while screaming the famous "God is great" chant in Arabic. Before the CIA agents could react, al-Balawi had detonated the bomb in his vest, killing himself, his supposed Jordanian intelligence handler, 7 CIA agents, and an Afghan informant. Not to mention injuring another 6 CIA officials. It was a tragic incident that no one had expected. In the past, we've seen cases of rogue informants and, of course, double agents, but never could anyone expect a triple agent. Not in a million years could anyone have imagined that a jihadist would try to infiltrate the CIA, let alone kill a bunch of officers. It was almost unbelievable, especially considering that the mission was approved by the authorities at the CIA headquarters in Washington. In fact, the excitement around the potential outcome of the meeting was so great that former President Obama was briefed about it. After this tragic event, the Al-Qaeda terrorist group released a video where al-Balawi showed off a detonator and promised to kill as many CIA agents and Jordanian spy officers as he could.
Look, this is for you. It's not watch. It's detonator. To kill as much as I can, inshallah. This is my dua. To kill you. To kill your partner, Jordanian partner.
In another video recorded before the incident, al-Balawi confirmed that the attack was planned as revenge for the death of Pakistani Taliban leader Emir Baitullah Mehsud, who was killed by an American drone strike on August 5, 2009. Sitting beside the new Pakistani Taliban leader Hakimullah Mehsud, al-Balawi also told how he rejected millions of dollars from the American and Jordanian authorities to spy on him. He also added that his suicide attack on the base would be the first of a significant revenge operation against the American security forces and their drone teams outside Pakistan. The brutality of this attack and how it was executed sent shockwaves through the American intelligence community, and you can understand why. It was the second most lethal attack against the CIA, only behind the 1983 bombing of the US Embassy in Beirut by Hezbollah. This was the worst attack against the CIA. As expected, an extensive investigation was launched into the incident, and at the end of it all, the CIA insisted that al-Balawi wasn't recruited by its officials or the Jordanian intelligence agency. Additionally, the organization maintained that no single CIA agent or group could be blamed for the attack. However, it was agreed many mistakes were made, especially in the way that the CIA overlooked the background and loyalties of the al-Balawi. Also, questions were asked about why the informer was let through 3 layers of security without proper vetting. Top members of the American intelligence community were clearly shaken and infuriated by the incident. More importantly, they were keen to introduce changes that would ensure that incidents like this don't ever happen again in the future. As a result, CIA Director at the time, Leon Panetta, announced a list of 23 actions, including tightened security procedures and the creation of vetting cells where informants will be thoroughly checked before they're allowed to enter US military bases. But of course, if you're familiar with how the CIA operates, you'd know the agency doesn't forgive terrorist attacks, especially when it leads to its officials being killed. So, it was clear that Ayman al-Zawahiri was a dead man walking, and it came as no surprise when the White House announced he had been killed in a drone strike carried out on July 30th, 2022. Anyways, that was all for today's video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, to hit the notification bell, and let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section.